So last night my brain was just not going to sleep, so I did something that y'all do, and I stayed up till like 3, 4 trolling, and I found some interesting stuff. I started diving into some of these moms that like to bash other moms for their content. Like, girl, let me take a minute and see what you're about for real. And maybe it's my soulless redhead side that's poking out a little bit, but I'm not gonna lie, I felt a little sense of relief seeing just how much these creators like to hide about their own lives while they sit and bash other people to try to make themselves look better. Talking about, let's go see my kid's filthy, disgusting bedroom. Let's go.
Hey Stephanie, I heard you were running your mouth, but every time you do about me, you can never seem to like say my name. And I'm gonna have my outfit linked because it's super cute. Talking about my all things worn as if that has anything to do with me being a mother is actually really crazy. To me, it seems like you are worried about everybody else's kids except your own. My kids are good, babe. I find it really funny that you say I'm trying to hide something, but I have a pinned video and the link in my bio. So what exactly is it that I'm trying to hide, Stephanie? You know what you're hiding though, and you never talk about it, is the fact that your husband that you are still married to is a PDF file. Not only did you marry a PDF file, you had children with him. Girl, please.
Stephanie Jenkins, better known on TikTok as Resilient Jenkins, has once again returned to the spotlight, but not for anything positive. This time, she decided to take a public shot at a fellow TikTok mom creator, Morgan, a woman who has been vocal and consistent in calling out Stephanie for her parenting choices, chaotic living conditions, and questionable behavior. But instead of shutting Morgan down or gaining sympathy, Stephanie ended up embarrassing herself. Her plan backfired hard. What she likely expected to be a bold moment of clapback turned into a massive self-exposure. And Morgan hit back with direct facts, receipts, and a calm that made Stephanie's rant look even more ridiculous. Stephanie uploaded a video explaining that she couldn't sleep and ended up staying awake, doom scrolling and trolling TikTok moms who she claimed bash other moms for their content. She said that going through these moms' pages gave her a weird kind of relief, like a reminder that nobody's life is as perfect as it may look online. She seemed to be implying that seeing their hidden flaws or contradictions made her feel more normal. At first, it sounded like she might have been heading towards some self-reflection or growth, but instead, she quickly shifted the mood and focus. She pivoted into mocking a specific creator, very clearly Morgan, even though she didn't say her name directly. It went from potential honesty to indirect shots really fast.
So last night my brain was just not going to sleep, so I did something that y'all do, and I stayed up till like 3, 4 trolling, and I found some interesting stuff. I started diving into some of these moms that like to bash other moms for their content. Like, girl, let me take a minute and see what you're about for real. And maybe it's my soulless redhead side that's poking out a little bit, but I'm not gonna lie, I felt a little sense of relief seeing just how much these creators like to hide about their own lives while they sit and bash other people to try to make themselves look better. Talking about, let's go see my kid's filthy, disgusting bedroom. Let's go.
Stephanie mocked Morgan's content by calling out how the kids' bedroom didn't look lived in, suggesting they were too clean to be authentic. She pushed the idea that real kids make real messes and that if a home is always tidy, something must be wrong or fake about the people living in it. According to her, children need space to make messes, and a home without visible clutter means the kids aren't truly living freely. Then, she gave herself a little crown by calling herself a more experienced mom, saying that as a mom of 5, she knows better. She claimed that real homes with real kids are always messy and used that as her reasoning for why Morgan's home must not be genuinely joyful or loving.
Here, because coming from an experienced mom of 5, when I tell you when kids actually live in the home full time, it gets messy. See, for example, Drew had just done this area 2-3 hours prior to me doing it, and then it needed to be done again because our kids were up, living their life, doing their kid thing, making a mess. I hate to break it to you, girl, but happy homes look lived in. Tired, exhausted, overstimulated moms don't always look their best. But just because they don't put on a face every day doesn't make them less of a mom or less of a woman. And on the other hand, there's also going to be mamas who disagree with the fact that people can be selling their body and or intimacies when they're a mama themselves, especially of daughters, because what are you raising your daughter to be okay with? I mean, make it make sense because y'all get the ick from me because I don't display this overly schmexualized person, but y'all, I got kids. Yeah, my life is currently a freaking mess, but I ain't hiding nothing. So y'all don't want to catch me with the time to troll because I'm gonna find that stuff you're hiding. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye now.
Then she turned her camera to her own motel room, which looked visibly cluttered and unkempt. Stephanie said that Drew had cleaned it just 2 hours earlier, but it had already become messy again. Her goal was to prove that mess is natural in a home with kids. But in this case, her home is a single motel room. Her kids don't have the option to spread out in different rooms or play in designated areas. They are all packed into one space 24/7. So when she tries to argue that her kids are just living their lives, it doesn't quite land. They are not playing freely in a cozy house. They are surviving in a small room with no privacy or room to breathe. Comparing that setup to a real house with multiple rooms isn't just flawed, it's manipulative. Stephanie wasn't making a parenting argument. She was justifying an unstable environment. She attempted to make a deeper statement by saying overstimulated and tired moms shouldn't be judged for having messy homes, and that messiness doesn't make them less of a woman. That part might have connected with viewers if she hadn't spent the video tearing down Morgan for having a clean home.
Let's go see my kids' filthy, disgusting bedroom. Let's go.
Not Stephanie coming for Morgan again. Not gonna lie, that was funny. But as an experienced mom of 4, Stephanie, my kids' bathrooms aren't trashed. And our house is lived in, but it's not trashed. Just like every other normal household. It's not gonna be trashed. It'll be lived in, but not a dumpster fire.
Her message felt confused. On one hand, she wanted sympathy for herself. On the other, she was refusing to show the same sympathy to someone else who simply keeps things more orderly. If Stephanie had truly believed in what she was saying, she wouldn't have needed to shame another mom to make her point. When the hypocrisy gets personal, Stephanie then hit below the belt. She accused some moms again, clearly Morgan, of selling their bodies and being bad examples for their daughters. She suggested that these moms were encouraging their kids to accept inappropriate behavior by normalizing it at home. Stephanie tried to present herself as the morally superior one, saying that she doesn't behave in those ways and therefore has the right to call it out. But this so-called moral high ground crumbled quickly because, let's not forget, this is the same woman who looked her own daughter in the face during a live stream and said, "When are you going to get used to being disappointed?" And why? Because Drew didn't take the little girl to the store for donuts. That moment wasn't just harsh. It felt like something she said before. The way she said it, with no hesitation or softness, showed it wasn't the first time. That's not parenting from love. That's emotional wear and tear, teaching a child to expect disappointment instead of advocating for herself. That's not tough love. That's emotional damage.
Stephanie Jenkins has some nerve. Her last video, she says that she was trolling on the internet in the middle of the night because she couldn't sleep. But she noticed that some mothers are out on here selling their bodies and being over-schmexualized. But what is that telling their kids, especially their daughters? And I'm thinking to myself, what are you teaching your daughters? You literally told Addie not too long ago that she needs to get used to being disappointed by your boyfriend. But that's okay, because you're an experienced mama of 5. Cut it out, Stephanie. Sometimes I think she just goes on these rants so that she can prove a point, like she's doing everything right. But the proof is in the pudding, you're not. What are you doing for your children? That is simply the question that all of your followers ask you in your comments. I see your comments. They're asking you, what are you doing to improve their lives since you started making money on TikTok? And then you rebut with shaming other mothers. Trifling.
Meanwhile, Morgan works, and yes, she sells used socks and underwear. But she has never hidden that from anyone. She talks about it openly on her page. Her videos that mention it are pinned right at the top, and the link to her site is in her public bio. She doesn't try to separate it from her personal life or pretend it's something else. She's transparent and professional about it. Stephanie tried to spin it like she uncovered a secret, like she dug up that no one knew about. But there was no secret to expose. Morgan made this a visible, intentional part of her brand from the start. There was nothing scandalous about it, just a woman doing a job to support her.
Hey, Stephanie, I heard you were running your mouth, but every time you do about me, You can never seem to like say my name. And I'm gonna have my outfit linked because it's super cute. Talking about my all things worn as if that has anything to do with me being a mother is actually really crazy. To me, it seems like you are worried about everybody else's kids except your own. My kids are good, babe. I find it really funny that you say I'm trying to hide something, but I have a pinned video and the link in my bio. So what exactly is it that I'm trying to hide, Stephanie? You know what you're hiding though, and you never talk about it, is the fact that your husband that you are still married to is a PDF file. Not only did you marry a PDF file, you had children with him. Girl, please.
Stephanie, in her video, proudly said that yes, her life was messy, but at least she wasn't hiding it. She tried to position herself as real for being open about her chaos. She finished the video with a so-called warning, telling people not to come for her because if they gave her time, she'd dig up what they were hiding. But here's the issue. Morgan wasn't hiding anything. Stephanie stayed up, scrolling and researching, hoping to catch Morgan in a lie. But all she found was information that had been public the entire time. Morgan's job, her content, and even the way she promotes her store. None of it is hidden. Stephanie wasted energy trying to shame someone who already owns her story. And the fact that Stephanie thought she made something huge, game-changing discovery about Morgan's hustle, only shows how disconnected from reality she is. Morgan isn't hiding. She's not embarrassed. She's not faking anything. She's working. She's building. She's feeding her kids and doing it without pretending to be someone she's not. Meanwhile, Stephanie is still online, still living in one motel room, still making excuses and still using her kids as props in videos instead of getting them out of that environment. One mom is hustling, the other is projecting.
Step on Me is literally trying to come for mom bashers on the internet like Morgan. You're finding all these things people are hiding, but Morgan has told us everything she's been doing in her past videos. So you really didn't troll that far, because if you did, Morgan herself tells you about the stuff Morgan's doing.
In the caption of her video, Stephanie tried to sound reflective and deep. She wrote a long paragraph about how people shouldn't judge others based on how clean their homes look in videos. She argued that it's easy to hide the mess behind the camera, and that many creators only show the best parts of their lives. She tried to position herself as someone who was honest and vulnerable, saying that even though her life is messy, at least she's showing the truth. She also claims she wasn't being hypocritical by calling others out and insisted that she was doing the work to improve herself. But the caption felt more like an excuse than an actual step toward change. But if you've been watching her for even a few months, you know that's just not true. It's been the same exact story playing out again and again for nearly a year. The same mess in the background of her videos, the same complaints about being misunderstood, the same unsafe motel room where her kids continue to live. There's been no visible progress, no new job, no better housing, no sign that she is trying to change things for her children. If she truly wanted better for them, she would have already taken steps to get them out of that environment instead of constantly filming it. She also said she wants people to relate to her, that she's trying to be real and connect with those who have messy lives too. She said she wasn't trying to impress the type of people who judge others online. But when you really break that down, it's clear what she's actually asking for. She wants sympathy. She wants to be praised for being raw and unfiltered, even if it means staying stuck. She doesn't want to be held accountable for the choices she keeps making. What she really wants is support without any expectation that she will change. She wants people to validate her decisions without asking her to take. And yes, she always says that her kids deserve better. That line comes up often in her videos and captions. But the reality is, she hasn't done anything to actually give them better. She says the words, but her actions don't match. There is no plan, no direction, no effort being made to truly improve their situation. Her kids are still in the same place, with the same problems. Her content is filled with emotional talk and promises that lead nowhere. She calls that authenticity, but in truth, It's just an ongoing cycle of excuses wrapped in the appearance of honesty. Morgan claps back with pure facts. Morgan wasn't about to let Stephanie run her mouth unchecked. In her response, she didn't hold back. She immediately pointed out how Stephanie always avoids saying her name directly, even though it's painfully obvious who she's talking about. Morgan called it exactly what it is: classic passive-aggressive behavior. She made it clear that if you're being bold enough to make accusations, you should also be bold enough to name names. Stephanie, in Morgan's view, was playing games and trying to throw rocks while hiding her hands. Morgan went on to clarify that her business has absolutely nothing to do with her ability to parent her daughter. She reminded viewers that she's always been open about what she does. From the very beginning, she never tried to hide it. She's the top seller on the platform she works with, and she has turned it into a full-time, successful business. More importantly, her daughter is safe, healthy, and fully taken care of. Her child has everything she needs, emotionally, physically, and financially. Morgan made it clear that her child's well-being speaks louder than any online judgment. Then she dropped what felt like a bombshell to many. Stephanie is still legally married to a man who's incarcerated for deeply disturbing crimes. And she didn't just stay with him blindly. Morgan said Stephanie knew exactly what he had done. She chose to have children with him anyway and stuck around even after everything came out. That's the part Morgan found unforgivable. That, she said, is the real scandal, not a woman selling socks and underwear to support her family. Morgan also opened up about the real reasons she started her business. She explained that at one point, she and her husband were struggling badly. He was working full-time, but the income just wasn't enough to support their family. They were scraping by, and she wasn't even active on social media at the time. She didn't have a platform, so she had to get creative. She built a business from scratch, starting with nothing. Now, she's the face of the site, has major endorsements, and earns enough not only to survive, but to provide comfortably for her family. Meanwhile, Stephanie is still relying on GoFundMe donations while criticizing moms like Morgan, who went out and created opportunities instead of waiting for her.
First off, Stephanie, the moms who post their clean houses have probably cleaned their house 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times already. I know I have to, and I only have 2 of them. The difference is we don't let it build up until we can make cleaning content. We also don't rely on our partners to do all of the cleaning when we're sitting on our asses. Okay, keep up. Hope this is helping. Second off, we're not posting about sending money to a country who is literally going through tragedy right now. But you are. Even though we don't really have a way to send money over there. I don't know where you're going to send it to, baby, but I guess try. Even though you're living in a homeless shelter. A homeless shelter. Not a hotel. We want to talk about manipulating situations. Hashtag hotel life. No, that's a homeless shelter. Be honest. Okay, let's be honest. Thirdly, I don't know who was talking to you about not showing your sexuality. We don't really give a fuck if you show your sexuality. We already know that you're easy. Also, if you really want to get technical about not showing your girls, blah, 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 you wouldn't have condoms sitting out. But, you know, you really want to smash onto people who are comfortable in their sexuality. That really shows pick me, girl. Really shows pick me. I think you really need to go to therapy.
Morgan may come off strong to some people, but she is doing what she needs to do. Her kids are thriving. She provides. Stephanie, on the other hand, has used her kids for sympathy content, collected money, and still hasn't improved their situation. Final thoughts. Who really won here? Stephanie Jenkins thought she could take Morgan down with a single video. She probably believed that by pointing fingers and tossing accusations, she could discredit Morgan and make herself look better. But instead, she ended up putting a spotlight on all the ways she refused to grow. Her works backfired and drew even more attention to her messy, chaotic, and unstable lifestyle. Instead of silencing Morgan, she reminded everyone of how little progress she's made over the past year. The more she tried to expose someone else, the more she exposed her own stagnation. Morgan stood her ground and didn't let the drama shake her. She responded with facts, directness, and confidence. She didn't need to insult or deflect. She simply laid out the truth. She brought clarity to the conversation and kept her message focused. She's not pretending to be perfect, but she's consistent, transparent, and clearly doing her best for her family. Meanwhile, Stephanie continues living in a cycle of denial and deflection, refusing to acknowledge how much of her situation is within her control. At the end of the day, this wasn't just some internet feud. It was a clear contrast, a contrast between someone who takes responsibility and someone who avoids it. A contrast between someone who hustles and builds something real and someone who expects help without putting in the work. It was a moment that showed the difference between parenting with intention and parenting through pity. Stephanie's videos didn't tear Morgan down, it made the divide between them even more clearer. Let me know what you all think in the comments. Like and subscribe to keep up with more updates, deep dives, and drama breakdowns.